Run the race alone. In a moment, I'm going to give you some good reasons to run the race alone. Hi, my name is Non-Monogamous Mark. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. We help people to live a great life enjoying sex with multiple people ethically and consensually, called ethical and consensual non-monogamy, ECNM lifestyle. And if you've never considered it, why not? Monogamy is the default of our society, and I lived that default life for 27 years of my married life, and then we opened our marriage and we started to really enjoy a wonderful life. But that's not what this is about. This video then is about running your race alone. You see, I'm going to tell you a little story about that, and that I have a video I made recently about for Cal Earth. It's a nonprofit organization in Southern California, and that nonprofit organization was started by a man that then one day he took his 3-year-old son out for a picnic, and at the picnic there were races and stuff with the kids were racing in, and so he encouraged his little 3-year-old to go ahead and join the race with the other kids. Well, but they were all bigger and faster than he was, and so he ran one race and came back kind of feeling sad and dejected because he came in last. So then he went out and he ran another race a little later in the day, and he came back at the end of that race. He says, "Papa, can I race alone?" And Dad says, "Race alone? What nonsense is that? You know, I mean, why race alone?" But Dad wasn't in the mindset to try to take and convince this 3-year-old to not race alone. So he says, "Sure, go ahead." And so his 3-year-old went and running off alone. And a little while later, he came back and he brought his papa a leaf. And he was just a happy clam. He was just a really happy little 3-year-old because he won his race, and he brought his papa back a beautiful leaf. So he says, "Papa, can I race again?" And so his papa says, "Sure." And he went off and ran the race again. And again he came back bringing a pebble or rock and a stick and gave that to his papa. And he was just so happy and excited because he says, "I won my race, Papa, I won my race." You see, sometimes we give up in life and give up trying to win the race because we are trying to compete with everybody else. Recently, I was running into some of my own personal roadblocks, some mental challenges. You know, I just was having some mental hurdles in moving forward, making forward progress in my life. And so I did some research, and I came across this discovery in Australia about how they are doing some amazing work at changing your neurological pathways in your brain so that you don't end up getting stuck and held back by the memories and belief systems that you have in your own brain. And because sometimes those belief systems tell us that, you know, we can't do something. Those belief systems tell, maybe that's because that you ran a race and you came in with compared to everybody else, a poor performance. You know, and so this program was sounded like just what I needed, and sure enough, I found it did amazing things. And so I contacted the gentleman who has made these discoveries in Australia, and it just so happened that he was expanding by offering training and certification program for a small handful of people in the United States. And so I went ahead and joined his 6 to 12 month training and certification program. And I got started for about a couple of weeks doing that, and things are going well. And but then he threw out a challenge to some of us here in the United States. Again, a very small handful, less than 10. And he says, you know, I'm going to be coming to the United States to do a great big seminar in San Diego in March. And I'd really like to have some of you that are trained and certified at that event, and we're needing more people that are trained and certified in this amazing work. And so we put together, for any of you who really want to run fast, we put together a fast track program so you can get through the program in 1 to 2 months. And I thought about that, and I thought, sure, why not? And so I decided to join the fast track program. Well, you see, I've always had a struggle with reading. Back in school, I was never a great student. In college, I had really high grades. I mean, I went to one of the top business schools in the United States, and I was on the dean's list every quarter. But that's because I read everything 2 and 3 times to remember it. And not only did I read everything 2 or 3 times, but I spent hours and hours. On my average day, I'd go to class for 2 to 3, sometimes at the most a heavy day was 4 hours, and yet I studied for 8 to 10 hours every single day, 7 days a week. And you know, I ran my own race, and because of that, I was on the dean's list. A lot of other students weren't. Because of that, I graduated with honors, with a college degree. Nobody in my family had ever had a college degree before, but I ran my own race. So here I was in this program then, this fast track program, and people were just zooming by, completing the course in a month, and then in 6 weeks. And I wasn't even halfway done to being complete. And I had a little conversation with my partner, Kat, in California, and that I, at that time, felt like I was having a really hard time. I was having a hard time because I was just so slow. I said, I've always been slow. And I started putting myself down. In fact, I even had one conversation kind of on one of my poorest days, and I said, you know, I used to think that I was stupid because I just couldn't learn fast. Now I can learn, I just couldn't learn fast, and so I thought that I was stupid. And here I am, I'm 62 years old now, and all of those feelings were resurfacing again. And my negative self-beliefs and doubts and everything. And I even said that, yes, I'm feeling stupid. And I talked to Chris in Seattle, my partner, and on the phone, and she even told me, she says, Mark, you're one of the smartest men I've ever met. Now, and Chris is very smart. She's got 2 kids. That one is still in high school, and he, ever since he was in 1st grade, has then been in an accelerated program in school because they tested him, found out he was at genius level of IQ. His sister went through school all the way through high school, got straight A's, and then got a full scholarship to a university, and again, she just excelled academically. And so, you know, she doesn't even have to crack a book, and she seems to be smart and knowing things. And so there are people out there that are like that, but then there are people out there that just have to take and run their own race. And so whatever your race is in, and you know, whether it's in sports, or whether it's in life, or whether it's in relationships, or whether it's in finances and business and money, or whether it's in your own health, whether it's having sex, run your own race. Just like that little 3-year-old boy, he found that when he ran his own race, he was always a winner. And I made a video just a little while ago on this hike, and I talked about how you run your race to challenge yourself, and if you're out doing a hike, then or make sure you're doing a hike uphill, because that's going to challenge yourself. And so many people, because they ran races early in their life that they didn't win, they didn't do well, and so that ends up messing up the head, so that they just really stop running the big races. They may run little races, but those are little insignificant races. And they stop running the big races. And I knew, you see, that I wanted to play big. I didn't want to have an insignificant life and making an insignificant impact on very few people. I wanted to have a significant life, having a significant impact on people. And that's why I had a message to be able to give to people, and I just had to run into my own roadblocks and my own barriers. And this process out of Australia is just an amazing process. And so with that, we also have a coaching program, so that it's not just going through, because I mean, in 1 hour process, you can overcome amazing barriers that are mental barriers, mental roadblocks. And so, but you know, the thing is, though, it takes a repeat pattern, because we have a tendency of taking the path of least resistance. And you may make forward progress and may make a correction in your life and be making some good habits, but then after a while you just kind of steer off the path and head right back to your old patterns again and your own old negative self-belief. Like here I was, 62 years old again, and I've known myself for the last 20 years to be someone who's really smart. But here I was, 62 years old, thinking and feeling totally stupid. And so don't put yourself in that kind of a place. Put yourself in a place where you're running your race and you're winning your race, because you're running the race alone. But don't do that totally alone. Like I'm here on this hike with Chris, and she's a heavyset woman, and so she's a long ways down the trail, and that's fine. I told her I'd wait here for however long, but just to take her time, don't overdo it. And you know, if it takes all day, she's not running against anybody else but herself. Well, just made that video about running your race alone, and I was at the top of this peak called Pinnacle Peak in Enumclaw, Washington, and I really didn't expect that Chris would be coming up as soon as she did, but she surprised me, and I'm very proud of her, because I told her, I says, just take your time, you know, and look, she ran her race alone.
I made it.
And you made it all the way to the top. We are now on this little side trail because it has a beautiful view here, so let me see if I can.
Gorgeous.
Now, if the skies were all blue, I'm told that right out that direction would be Mount Rainier.
Yeah.
And in fact, right through the parting of the skies, I can see just looks like probably the top of the mountain, maybe a little bit of the top of the mountain up there. But Mount Rainier would be right out there. And but that just not a clear day, and so it would be beautiful to see that and show it to you. But you know, it's just beautiful to be out here. And when I got here in Washington State on Tuesday from California, it was raining, and it's rained every day since. And I looked at the weather report and saw that it was going to be a break in the rain for a little while this morning, and I thought, oh, great. And so we are here on this hike, and you know, I think that unless it was just pouring down rain, we'd be on the hike anyway, because there's enough trees that it keeps the rain off. And so just you know, just to cap off again, any comments about anything?
It's just a beautiful hike, beautiful way to get out, and just don't give up, keep going.
And one thing I want to point out too is that now you have some problems with your knees.
Yes, I have 2 bad knees actually. I've had 3 surgeries on my left knee.
Okay, and 3 surgeries on your left knee, and it's still not right. And
right.
then your other knee is not
I heard it
great
last summer. Remember?
Yeah. And so it's like, you know, you could have used your knees as your excuse, because this was a pretty tough hike even for me.
1,000 foot.
1,000-foot elevation gain
in a mile and a half.
In a mile and a half, yeah, and that's
it's up.
and yet some of it is rocky, and so that you're having to climb up rocks and muddy, and other is you got steps built in, so you're going step after step after step, and I don't know how many stories you know, 1,000 feet. If you're climbing the stairs in a building, you know, a skyscraper, I don't know how many that would be, but it's a lot, and so I'm just really proud of her.
There was like a 10-foot straightaway.
Yeah,
I loved that.
But there weren't very many of those.
No, there's like one or two maybe.
One or two maybe, yeah.
It,
you know, that for 10 feet where it was flat, you know, and then he's like, oh, but it's so short-lived. So just go ahead and enjoy running your race. So run your race alone, and you will win every time. Just don't give up. So many of us have done that. I did it for many years. And there's no reason for you to give up when you're running your race alone.